Hey guys, this is Chris Peak with OUI TV, and today we're bringing you a special, but we're actually, speaking to the now owner of the estate that Herb Baumeister owned prior to Robert. Robert, welcome to the station. Thank you for taking the time with us today. What got you to buy this property?
Well, we were looking for a place for horses, and we came across it in a multiple listing, and we decided we should go see it. It was expensive, but nevertheless we thought we should come see it. And when we got here, the gate was chained shut, and the grass was very, very tall, and clearly no one was living here. And then of course you have to ask the realtor, why is no one living here? And of course at that point they have to tell you. And at that point he said, well, do you remember the story of the guy that murdered some guys and left them in the woods behind the house? And I said, yeah. He said, well, this is it. So the first question you have to ask yourself is, does it bother you enough to live here? And obviously it didn't, because we bought it, but the place is a lot of work, and it needed a lot of work. It had been vacant for about 5 years. But that's what initially brought us here, was land for horses.
And behind us we have the pool, which is infamously known for a lot of the murders to have actually happened in the pool. When you first moved in and you kind of knew a little bit about the story, where were some of the places in the house that had the most activity?
Well, there's certainly two places. Initially, and my wife brought this to my attention. I was on the ladder painting right back here, actually, and she was down lower painting, and she hollered up to me and said, there's a man in the woods in a red shirt. And of course I got down off the ladder, and being a famous place or infamous place, people come by uninvited a lot, and I thought it was another one of those persons. And I got down off the ladder and I said, where is he? And she said, well, he's gone. I said, where did he go? She said, well, he's gone. She said he just walked into the woods. And I said, well, what are you talking about? She said, well, it's actually the second time I'd seen it. And she pointed to those trees over there and said there was a man in the wood, a man in a red shirt walking away, and but he had no legs. He was see-through as far as from the waist down. And of course I made a joke, and I thought she was maybe losing her mind, and she said, no, very matter-of-factly, that's what I saw. And she had never told me anything like that before. So that was probably the first thing that happened that was a little unusual. And then a little bit later on, a paranormal researcher had contacted me, and he asked me, had I seen anything? And I said, no. And he said, well, we had come out to the property a year before you moved in, and that's one of the most haunted houses in Indiana. And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, haven't you seen anything? And I said, no. And I said, well, my wife saw something. And at that point on the phone, he told me, let me tell you what she saw and where she saw it. He said, you look out your master bathroom window to the west side of the property, there's a group of 3 trees. She saw a guy in a red shirt with no legs. And of course, that's exactly what she had told me. At that point, he offered to come out and do a full investigation for us, and I said no. And at that point, we had decided, before we even moved in, that we were sort of trying to forget all of this. It's hurt the property value. We thought, well, we'll just not talk about it, and the property value will go up, and we'll all walk off into the sunset. But things continued to happen. I told him, no, we're not interested in that. Well, about 6 months later, he called me back and said there's a paranormal group, or paranormal conference here in Indianapolis, and I have people from the History Channel, the Travel Channel, and the Sci-Fi Channel here, and we would love to come out and do an investigation for you, but it has to be this week. And I don't know, something just caused me to agree to it. I said, okay. Well, my wife had gone to Colorado for this medical conference, and I called her and I said, hey, the Ghostbusters are coming out on Saturday night. You'll be back. And at that point, she said, good, maybe they'll pick up on what I pick up on. And once again, I have to say, what are you talking about? And she said, well, there's a place in the house I don't like to go. I said, where? She said, and initially she didn't want to tell me. She was very reluctant. She said, well, I don't want to tell you because you'll tell them. I said, no, I won't tell you. She said, in your bathroom in front of the closet. And I said, what's wrong? She said, I just don't like going in there. The hair stands on the back of my neck. I don't like going in there. So I said, okay. So all those folks came out that following Saturday, and I recognized some of them from some of the television shows. And 2 psychics came. Now, I've never talked to a psychic in my life. And it was a woman psychic and her son, who was about 18, and she said, the first thing this woman said was, there's a male spirit standing at the top of the stairs just glaring at me. This was inside the entryway of the house. And then her son says, the way he said it exactly was, there's a room in this house for a man that I want to see. Well, it turned out to be my bathroom. To sum all this up very quickly, they all wound up in my bathroom. And this is the same place that my wife doesn't like. So I didn't make a lot out of all this because they told me very specific things about the killer, about the killings, things that are on the internet. There's a book written about it. So, and being a skeptic, I just wasn't convinced. They knew too much, in my opinion. They knew too much of the story. So about a week later, I called one of the investigators that I felt was a little more on the level, not as dramatic as these other people. And I said, do you know a psychic that could come up here that doesn't know the story? And she said, yeah, I think I do. There's a lady in Mooresville, Indiana. And I'm pretty sure she wouldn't know the story. I said, well, you can't give her the address, because if you Google the address, it all comes up. So a week later, this lady from Mooresville came up, and she said, what do you want me to do? And I said, just walk around the house. I didn't tell her anything. I didn't tell her any of the history. She walked around the house for about 20 minutes, and she said, I'm drawn to the backyard. And I said, okay. So she walked out the front door, walked around the house to in the back where the killer had burned some bones. And as you can see, it looks just like it does now. It's just woods. But she stood exactly in the spot. She's not 2 feet or 3 feet either way, exactly in the spot. She says, I see fire. Not that you're going to have a fire. The fire has already happened. And she said, I feel people are buried here. And at that point, I didn't say yes or no. I just said, okay. So she came back in the house, walked around a little bit more. We sat down at the table, and I said, what's going on here? And she said, well, I took some notes on the way here, and my spirit guides told me the letters MM. And I said, what's MM? And she said, mass murder. She said, people were killed here, a lot of people. And then she said, there's at least 4 spirits in the house. And then the next thing she said was, your bathroom. And of course, this bathroom keeps coming up. I said, all right, what's wrong with the bathroom? She said, your bathroom's a portal. Of course, I have to ask what that is. She said, the bathroom is an area where the spirits come and go from this world where we are to where they are stuck. They haven't gone to the light. And then she explained sometimes people that die violently get trapped between this world where we are and wherever they're supposed to go. And when the spirits do something that we can see or hear, they're in our world. And the rest of the time, they're somewhere else. But they use the bathroom as an area to sort of transition from this world where we are to where they're stuck. So those are the 2 things that cause me to believe that something's going on. You know, my wife tells me about a man in the woods in a red shirt, and a total stranger tells me about the man in the woods in a red shirt. And of course she tells me about the bathroom, and then all of these people wind up in the bathroom.
And so obviously we are doing a screening of Dan T. Hall's film that was filmed here inside the house. It was an investigation, and very well done as well. At what point did you actually meet Dan and kind of get that project up and running?
Well, my brother-in-law had apparently met Dan at some point, and my brother-in-law had mentioned that we had this place, and Dan called me and asked would I be willing to participate in something like this. And at that point, you know, he warned me that once you get on this sort of paranormal radar, it's hard to get off. And I must say that he was correct. We get many, many requests for television shows, investigative groups, things like that. And I turn most of them down just because we do live here. It's very disruptive. And a lot of people approach us with under the premise of helping us with our problem. Well, we really don't have a problem. anything that happens paranormally, it's more like poltergeist activity. It's not malevolent. It's nothing demonic. It's just periodically they let you know they're around.
And you wrote a book that's actually on Amazon for sale right now. Talk to us a little bit about your book and let people know where they can go buy it. And it's a wonderful story.
Well, once again, I was approached by someone else, a guy out of Colorado named Richard Estep. Richard is a paranormal investigator, and he's written several books, probably 6 or 8 books on the paranormal. And I said, well, I'd probably be interested in writing a book, but I'm not a paranormal investigator. I don't know much about it, other than I live in a haunted house. But I said I would gladly do the factual part of the case. Having lived here, I have become somewhat, I guess, an expert on the history, and I'm kind of a stickler for the facts. So when I see different productions and stories and books that come out that's not correct, it bothers me. So I wanted to kind of correct the record, and hopefully that's what I did.
Awesome. Well, again, you can find Robert's book.
It's The Horrors of Fox Hollow Farm, and it's on Amazon. And a guy named Richard Estep and myself wrote it.
Awesome. Well, definitely check out his book, but also come out to Greg's Art Place, or originally known as OP's back in the day when, unfortunately, a lot of really saddening things were happening here at this property. But the great thing is Robert and I were talking on the phone, prior to getting this set up, and an uninvited paranormal guest came through, or not paranormal guest, but investigator came through, and they assured Robert that at least most of the activity here at Fox Hollow Farm has deceased. Is that correct, Robert?
Well, yeah, we have a friend who's a medium, a very good one, I guess, if there's a rating on that. And he has told us since he started coming here probably 4 or 5 years ago that the activity has decreased. So maybe we've helped some people move on. Our goal was never to certainly glamorize what happened or profit from it, but these people that were killed, these young men, they didn't get any recognition in life, and they didn't get any in death. Out of the 17 or 20 that were killed here, they only identified 8. So we're hoping that maybe by giving them some notoriety, it'll help them move on, maybe give them some closure. That was really the intent. It was very sad that it all happened, but it's a beautiful property, and we enjoy it, and we just hope that some good will come of all of it.
Thank you.
Here, in this low area, the crime scene photos, this tree is much smaller. This is where the mulch pile was. So this is how close. Now this is...
Joe is one of the tenants in the apartment here at Fox Hollow Farms, and he actually, experienced a lot of different paranormal activities while living in the house. Talk to us a little bit about the experience with living in a haunted house.
Within the first couple hours of moving here, I was moving stuff into the apartment, and the night before I didn't get any sleep, so I passed out on the bed, and I woke up in a panic and a run. I was like running in my sleep, which I never do. But I was running in my sleep and ran into the wall. And I shattered my iPhone, cut my hand, and woke up on the ground.
Before you even moved into the property, did you know anything about the story? Did you know anything about?
I read a little bit about it, but I thought if they're okay with it, I'm okay with it. What could happen?
Right. What is one of?
Little did I know.
Little did you know, and you didn't get that rent reduction either. So.
I went for that.
But what was one of your most fearful places to go, even in the house?
The pool was spooky, but to me, it's the mechanical room next to the pool. There was all sorts of stuff that goes on in there, and then I don't know. Towards the end, when I was living up here, it always felt like it was going on outside on the stairwell outside, and in front of the door, on the door, door knocking, all that stuff. But when I felt like it moved inside at the end, that's when I just didn't feel comfortable anymore there.
And at what point did you actually move out?
I think I was here for 2.5 years, so it was kind of towards the tension in the house got changed too. It just everything changed. I don't know how to describe it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Joe, for your story and your time. Chris Peak.
The lights are on.
So this is probably where Herb would take his victims and bring them and have a drink with them after the bar.
There's a Rob knows better than I do, but there's a couch here underneath that vent, correct, with a camera in it.
Well, Mark, the Tony Harris, the person that Herb invited up here and didn't kill, said there were a lot of video cameras around, and that he believed that the killer had videotaped a lot of this. And he had indicated that there used to be a couch right here, and that he believed there was a camera in that vent. So the theory is that he may have videotaped a lot of the killings.
And there's probably no way that we would ever find those videos.
Probably not. The night before the killer killed himself up in Canada, he was stopped under a bridge. He had stopped to sleep under a bridge in Canada, and a Canadian mounted police knocked on the window and says, "You can't sleep here, it's not safe." And she had shined the flashlight in the back of the car. It was full of videotapes. And after the police got here, after the bones were found, they asked the killer's wife where he kept his videotapes. Apparently he was a prolific videographer, and she showed him the room there across from the pool, and the shelves were empty. So if he did do that, he probably took them with him.